y'all, Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. You know, we're going to do a video today that we probably should have done long ago because of all the questions I've gotten about this and all of the statements I've seen either right here on YouTube, whether it was in an email, whether it was on Patreon. Everybody's, I tell you what, being overwhelmed has everybody's number. So I'm going to tell you exactly how we deal with it and how we dealt with it, because you may think, oh gee, there's 3 of them out here doing this pretty much full time. They're probably staying ahead of things, but folks, that is not always the case. I know we got so many new people in here, and you're probably wondering, like so many others, because by and large in YouTube channels, you only see the highlights. You never see the behind the scenes kind of stuff like you do, let's say, on Patreon. You don't necessarily see all those things, and today we're going to kind of give you an expose with us how that happens. Right off the bat, look, here we are in the chicken tractor on steroids system. Over on Patreon, I explained to them how some things have gotten away from us or had gotten away from us and how we were going about mitigating it. But folks, we're not immune to that either. So when I found out that we had this mountain of things on our plate, things that I obviously can't talk about, personal things that were going on, I was like, okay, well, maybe I can retool this chicken tractor on steroids to go in another direction. If you go back and watch the playlist, this thing moves every single week. So in light of all the other things we had on our plate at the time, I said, okay, what if we waited every 2 weeks? Because we've situated this thing to where it was 1 cubic yard. We've done it with 2 cubic yards of material. We've done it with 1.5, which seemed to be the sweet spot. So I'm like, okay, what if we waited 2 weeks before we did everything? What was the result on that? Well, folks, that turned out to be a fabulous experiment because it works great. In fact, it probably works even better in the winter where you can't really necessarily, if you got your chickens outside, you don't necessarily want to move them as often as you ordinarily would. So guess what? That turned out to be a time saver and also produced some pretty bomb compost. How about that? All right, y'all, chickens are done. That's all squared away. That's where the problem was the solution. So now we're producing even better compost by letting them sit there for 2 weeks. Okay, y'all, let's move into the next section. Burnout, for me, is not real, but being overwhelmed is. And that's where everybody, me and Ben from Renewed Homestead, were talking about this. In fact, we've talked about it numerous times. Justin at Metcalf Mills, we had that same conversation. And I guarantee every other person out there is going through the same thing. So let me share with you this metric that I've developed really about 2 weeks ago regarding being overwhelmed. Because what you don't see is me and William bickering. Michelle and William, well, they don't really bicker. It's me and Michelle, me and William. They don't really bicker among themselves. But we're talking about things that need to get done and we're overwhelmed. So we created this metric that in the course of a day, because we do permaculture, everything is in accordance with permaculture. Our animals move often, sometimes, usually daily. So it requires a great deal out of us. So the metric is that day is considered a success as long as the animals are fed, watered, and moved. Anything additional to that, super success. So that brings me into the next project. Now that we got a little running room. See these tarps? Those are all finished compost. They've been here a while. They should have been put out. We had 2 more that William and Michelle put out yesterday around some of the trees and inside the greenhouse. We'll cover that in the future. But today, what's left, and I made this more like a fortified mulch. This, now we're going to take that wheelbarrow, we're going to take this, we're going to dress these trees. And that's a whole series of stuff. I actually covered it in great detail on Patreon. So that's what's next. We're going to take this stuff, get it where it goes, because honestly, I hate seeing these blasted blue tarps up against a green or gray background. So that's what we're doing next.
The mulch used to be up here. It's broken down, the soil is so alive. It's broken down. We're adding more today. If you want additional information and details on why we do this, check us out on Patreon.
Well, we had to kind of leave it for the day because all of a sudden the bees started getting pretty active. And I'm not about to do this kind of work wearing a bee suit. They got out, the wind's kind of blowing. We're in a little bit of a depression here, so you can't really tell it so much, but on the higher elevations, the wind's really kicking and the bees don't dig it, especially in a, I don't know, in a mid-50s degree day out here. Okay, so what else is on this list? Look, as far as I'm concerned, let me just say this right off. As far as I'm concerned, it's already a win. That's how I got to look at it, y'all, because, and I'll show you here in a minute, I make a list. And I've been in a good habit of making a list every single day of everything I want to get done. If I don't finish that day, I'd get up the next day, start over, make another list. And then at the top of that list, or the things with a little asterisk next to it, would be the things that cannot wait, that need to get done. But we all have these high expectations of everything. Like right now, I totally wanted to get that done. It ain't gonna happen because I'm not about to get lit up by a bunch of flying snapping turtles. So, what else is on the list? Well, all these fruit trees over here, all up and down in this emerging food forest, have all been pruned. You'll see some of the stuff laying out, but typically when I prune, I try to make it make sense. All this stuff here needs to get out of here. It can be chipped up. I can even come over here with some loppers, just break this stuff up and let it break down. That's an option too. But I can take it somewhere else where it might be needed, where I need those things. See, that's just one of many of the things that need to get done here. Some of this stuff, I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it in place, break out the loppers, bust it up, because a new forest rises on an old one, right? So if I gotta sit here and cut this stuff off, I could do that. Look, y'all, there's a whole list of things I desire to get done in the course of a day. And if you're not careful, because I know all of you are in exactly the same position, because I get these letters. So we're gonna go up here, knock out a couple of more things, and then we'll go ahead and show you how we deal with it all. So here we are, it's about, I don't know, it's approaching 3 o'clock. And here it is. This is my list. This is what I wanted to show you. I'm not gonna give you any specifics, y'all. Okay? There's my list. And you can see that it's all crinkled up and folded. I got into the habit a while ago of making sure that I made every single day, I made a list. And then the things I didn't do the day before, you know, if they weren't prioritized, they weren't real high priority, then I'd lose my mind. I'd get stressed about all these things that I'm trying to get done. And I'd never celebrate about the things that I did get done. Because some days, this is important, some days you may not go as far as you want, but as long as you're not going backwards, that's not really a reason to be too disappointed. Now, there are going to be those days when you go backwards. Let's say your animals got out. You got to spend half the day trying to find them. Let's say you were slipping and a chicken died. Whatever those, you're going to have those things. That is the nature of this life. But I'm doing these videos really covering the basics because, frankly, we don't do it enough. You watch these videos and I sit here and I go back and I look at the totality of what we've done and I'm realizing, you know what? Hey, if I were just getting into this, man, I'd sure be leaving a whole lot of things out. I'd possibly be getting discouraged because I don't know that it's normal to have setbacks. It's normal to not check a single thing off this list. That is normal. That's the nature of this life. And I view it, and I've said it before, like a sailboat. A sailboat doesn't just go from A to B. It's not a speedboat. A sailboat, like you can feel in this wind that's blowing right now, it takes one tack, then another and another, but it's generally going to where it wants to go. So folks, at the end of the day, enjoy those little victories and then find that little benchmark every single day that you call it a victory, okay? So until next time, y'all, remember, we got bone sauce, we got consultations, we got spoons, we got comfrey. We got all this stuff at our websites. If you want to check us out on Patreon and see all the wonderful things we're doing over there, feel free. Come on aboard. All right, y'all. Till next time, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm, where permaculture is my passion. We'll see you next time.